Hello my dear students, a very warm welcome in today's session. In today's session we are going to continue our part number 2 of chapter number 4, that was atomic structure. Okay, so now we are moving ahead with today's topic, but before that we are going to do a quick recap of the previous session. The first point that we have studied was basics of atomic structure. So what were the basics of atomic structure? That atom is the tiny particle which is found in each and every substance or matter. Okay, this is the very tiny particle which is found in every and each matter. Okay, ancient views of atomic structure. What were the ancient views of atomic structure? The ancient views were that atom is known as Anu, and this was stated by Maharshi Kannad. He stated that the very tiny particle of any matter is known as Anu, and this Anu is made up of more subatomic particles that were known as Parmanu. Okay, that were known as Parmanu. So these were the ancient views of atomic structure. Moving ahead, a scientist came, Dalton, who stated atomic theory. In his atomic theory, there were some postulates. The first postulate that he stated was that atom is a very tiny particle that is indivisible as well as indestructible. Okay, he stated that atom is indivisible. The second point that he stated, that atoms of same element look identical. And the third point, he said that atoms of different element look different. So these were the postulates that he given. He also said that atoms of different elements take part in some chemical reactions to form a particular compound. That was also the postulate of Dalton's atomic theory. Then modern atomic theory was stated by some scientists, and in that they stated that atom is the very smallest particle of any matter, but it is divisible, which means that they contradicted Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, and the second point that they stated was atoms of same element may look different in case of isotopes. So they also contradicted the second postulate of Dalton's atomic theory, that Dalton said that the atoms of same element are identical, but they stated, or the modern atomic theory stated, that atoms of same element may look different in case of isotopes. Now what are isotopes? Isotopes are those particles that have same atomic number but different mass number. So in case, if I have an example, that is hydrogen. If I talk about hydrogen, when I go along with Dalton's atomic theory, if I say the second postulate was atoms of same element look identical or are identical, Dalton stated that. Okay, so what does it mean? That if I have an atom of hydrogen, then the another atom of hydrogen will look alike. These two are identical. But in case of modern atomic theory, what happened? In the modern atomic theory, it was stated that any element, we are again taking the example of hydrogen, if this element has isotopes, then their isotopes will look different. So hydrogen has 3 isotopes, that is 1H1, 1H2 and 1H3. And you can see that these 3 isotopes has different mass number. So that's why there you can contradict Dalton's second postulate. And modern atomic theory contradicted the third postulate of Dalton atomic theory too. The third postulate of Dalton's atomic theory stated that atoms of different element will look different. But in case of modern atomic theory, it was stated that atoms of different element may look identical in the case of isobars. In the case of isobars. Now what is isobars? Isobars are the particles which have different atomic number but same mass number. So that's why the three first postulates were contradicted by modern atomic theory. Moving ahead, we have studied the contradictions between Dalton's and modern atomic theory. I have already explained about this right now. Okay, and there were correlations between Dalton's and modern atomic theory too. The correlations were what? That Dalton stated that atoms of different elements participate in any chemical reaction to form compound, as well as modern atomic theory also stated that atoms of different elements participated in different chemical reactions to form particular compounds in the simple whole number ratio. So these were the correlations and contradictions between Dalton's and modern atomic theory. Moving ahead, we have also studied subatomic particles of an atom. Subatomic particles were electrons, protons and neutrons. These were the subatomic particles of atoms, and these were stated by modern atomic theory. In this, it was stated that atom is a divisible particle and it can be divided into three subatomic particles such as electrons, protons and neutrons. Okay, after that we have studied discovery of cathode rays, and it was done by the scientist William Crookes with the help of a cathode ray tube, or we can say discharge tube. He used a discharge tube. I will just show you the arrangement of the discharge tube. He arranged two electrodes in it, and those electrodes were connected to a voltage source. The electrode that was connected to the negative source, negative terminal, it was called to be cathode, and the electrode that was connected to the positive source, it was called to be anode. So when he applied the voltage source, what he observed that a green glow was observed behind the electrode or positive terminal anode. Okay, and that green glow, after that green glow, he concluded that there were some particles that were released from the cathode or the negative terminal that struck here and produced green glow. That's why he stated that there were some particles that were emitted from this electrode, that is negative electrode or negative terminal, and those particles were called to be cathode rays because they were emitted from cathode. Okay, and the tube was named after these rays, that is cathode ray tube, CRT. So this was the basic structure and the experiment that was done by William Crookes for the discovery of cathode rays. After that, who came? J.J. Thomson came and he discovered electrons. It was discovered by J.J. Thomson. He discovered electrons by the same experiment. He just done some more experiments on the CRT, that is cathode ray tubes, and he observed the nature of cathode rays. After the observation, he concluded that cathode rays consist of negative charge, and those negative particles were named as electrons by J.J. Thomson. So these were the points and the topics that we have studied in the previous sessions. Now we are moving ahead with the next topic, that is discovery of proton. So after the discovery of electron, it was necessary that there should be a discovery of proton also. But why? Because it was stated that any atom is neutral in nature. What does it mean? That it consists of negative as well as positive charge. But when the discovery of electron happened, it was necessary to contribute the discovery of protons as well. It was thought that there are presence of some positive charges also in the atoms, that why atom is a neutral. Okay, so what happened? The scientist Eugen Goldstein in 1886, he discovered positive rays emitted from the anode consisting of positively charged particles. As we know that during the discovery of electrons, the electrons were released from the cathode. Exactly in the same way, the positive rays emitted from the anode, the positive terminal consisting of positively charged particles, and those positively charged particles were named to be protons. Okay, what was the experiment? Goldstein used a modified cathode ray tube with a perforated cathode. So what does Eugen Goldstein did? That he used a perforated cathode in the cathode ray tube, and he modified cathode ray tube by using perforated cathode. We will study the structure in the next slide or the further slides. He observed a new type of rays produced from the anode passing through the hole of the perforated cathode. These rays were called anode rays. So now we are going to study the structure as well with the diagram. You can see that this is a discharge tube. Now he modified this cathode ray tube. This is CRT, cathode ray tube. What Eugen Goldstein did, that he used perforated cathode. So he modified CRT. Okay, he used perforated cathode. What is the mean of perforated cathode? Perforated means with holes. So there were some holes in the cathode, and that's why it was called perforated cathode. What happened? He observed, after applying the voltage, he observed that there was a red glow. He observed a red glow behind perforated cathode, and after the red glow he stated or he concluded that there were some particles which discharged from or emitted from anode and struck behind the glass of perforated cathode and produced red glow, and that's why those particles were called to be anode rays. Those particles were named anode rays. After that, he also observed the nature of anode rays. He also did some experiments to observe the nature of anode rays or the charge on anode rays. He found the anode rays to be positively charged, and that's why he concluded what you can see here clearly, that he concluded anode rays or positive rays consist of positively charged particles, now called protons. So he concluded that anode rays consist of positively charged particles which were called to be protons. Okay, the positive rays were affected by electric and magnetic fields, but in a direction opposite to that of cathode rays. What happened? When he applied electric field and magnetic field, he observed that the anode rays deflected opposite to the direction of cathode rays. So that's why he concluded that anode rays has an opposite or have an opposite charge. So this was the conclusion that was made by Goldstein. After that, thus with the discovery of the positive particles, proton was initiated. So that's why after the discovery of positive particles, the word proton was initiated from here. Okay, moving ahead. Now we will study the properties of protons. So what are the properties of protons? A proton is a positively charged particle. We have studied that proton is a positively charged particle. And how did we know that? How we know that? Basically, Goldstein performed some experiments. He performed some experiments on anode rays. Basically, he set an electric field and magnetic field, and he observed that anode rays deflected opposite to the cathode rays. Anode rays deflected opposite to the direction of cathode rays. That's why he concluded that anode rays has positively charged particles, and that's why protons are known to be positively charged particles. Okay, the next point you can see, it has a positive charge +1, that is +1 Coulomb. It has a charge of +1 Coulomb, equal in magnitude to that of an electron. It is equal to the magnitude of electron. Okay, the mass of a proton is equal to that of hydrogen, and the mass of proton is equal to hydrogen, that is 1.672 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. This was the mass of proton. Moving ahead, now comes Thomson's model of atom. Now there was a scientist, we have studied J.J. Thomson. He again came and he gave his model of atom. Okay, Dalton's atomic theory suggested that the atom was indivisible and indestructible. We have studied that Dalton's atomic theory postulated that atom is an indivisible as well as indestructible particle. But after the discovery of electron and proton, it was necessary to show the arrangement of electron and proton in the structure of atom. and that is done by Thomson with the help of his body. You can see here, but the discovery of two fundamental particles, electrons and protons, inside the atom led to the failure of this aspect of the theory. It was considered necessary to know how the electrons and protons be arranged within an atom. So now it was necessary that everyone wants to know the arrangement of electron and proton in the atom. So that's why Thomson came and proposed his model of atom. So moving ahead, now we are going to study Thomson's model of atom. J.J. Thomson was the first to propose a model for the atom. Okay, he was the first scientist who proposed the model of the inner structure of an atom. But why? He wanted to explain the arrangement of electron and proton in the atom. So to explain the arrangement of protons and electrons, he proposed the model of his atom. Thomson proposed the plum pudding model. It was also called as plum pudding model of the atom in 1904. You can see here clearly this was the structure of his model. Okay. Now we are going to study the structure deeply. That is, according to this model, the atom is a sphere of positive charges and the electrons are spread out inside it like plums in a spherical pudding. So you can see here that it's a spherical cloud of positive charge. Atom was a Thomson concluded, or Thomson explained, that atom was a spherical cloud of positive charge and electrons were distributed all over the atom just like plums in a spherical pudding. Okay, that's why this model was also known as plum pudding model. This is the reason why this model was called to be plum pudding model. The atom has an equal number of positive charges, protons, and negative charges, electrons. He also concluded, or he also stated, that the atom has an equal number of electrons as well as protons, because we know that atom is neutral in its own state. That's why he concluded that number of protons will be equal to number of electrons in an atom. Hence the atom as a whole is electrically neutral. Okay, I have stated that that's why atom will be electrically neutral. The plum pudding model was later found to be incorrect when Rutherford proposed his atomic model. After the discovery of Rutherford's atomic model, after the experiment of scattering model of Rutherford, the plum pudding model was found to be incorrect. Okay, now what was Rutherford's experiment? We are going to study that also. That's Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. Okay, he gave his alpha scattering experiment. Now, in his experiment, Lord Rutherford in 1911 studied the atomic model and discovered the atomic nucleus. He studied the atomic model as well as he discovered the atomic nucleus also. He directed alpha particles. Now, what was the experiment done by him? He directed alpha particles. What were alpha particles? These were particles with positive 2 charge, or we can say plus 2 charge. These were the particles which have plus 2 charge towards a metallic sheet. He directed alpha particles, or he bombarded alpha particles towards a metallic sheet. Okay, source of alpha particle. What was the source of alpha particles? It was radium. Radium is a radioactive source. So that's why it was taken for the bombardment of alpha particles from it. Metallic sheet. What kind of metallic sheet was used? Gold foil. A gold foil was used 1/1,000,000th of a centimeter. So a gold foil of 1/1,000,000th of a centimeter was used for this experiment. Alpha particles, alpha, are positively charged helium atoms containing 2 protons and 2 neutrons. I have already told you that it has 2 positive charge. Okay, so that's why you can say it has 2 protons as well as 2 electrons. Okay, moving ahead, you can see here that he saw that most of the alpha particles went straight through the foil, but some were deflected slightly and some by large angles. What he observed after this experiment, or during this experiment, that this was the source of alpha particle, this was the source, radium, this was the golden sheet, metal sheet. Okay, when alpha particle were bombarded on the metallic sheet, what happened? He saw that the beam of particles, through the beam of particles, there were some rays deflected. Okay, he saw what? That most of the alpha particles went straight. he saw that most of the alpha particles went straight here. Okay, and after that he also observed that some of them were deflected with a very less angle. Okay, but very less, we can say 1 in 20,000. 1 in 20,000 alpha particle were deflected back on the same path. This was the observation which Rutherford observed. Okay, now after this observation, what happened? You can see here, this is the schematic diagram. This was the source and these were the alpha particles. Okay, what happened? This was the atom of gold foil. Okay, and when the alpha particles bombarded on the atom, what he observed, that most of them just went undeflected, but some of them were deflected by small angles. But 1 in 20,000, which means very less of alpha particles, went back completely on the same path. You can see like this. Okay, now after this all observation, what he concluded, on the basis of these all observations, some conclusions were drawn as follows. What were those conclusions? We are going to study that. So you can see this is a table of observations and conclusions that was studied by Rutherford. The observation, that is first observation that he studied, was most of the alpha particles went straight through the foil. He observed, and we also saw that most of the alpha particles went straight through the foil. What does it mean? What he concluded with this observation? An atom on the whole is relatively empty. He stated that an atom on the whole, basically, if this is the atom and this is the nucleus, he stated that atom on a whole is empty. That's why the alpha particles went straight through the atom. This was concluded by Rutherford, the first conclusion after his scattering experiment. The second conclusion, or the second observation, he observed that some alpha particles deflected slightly. We have also seen that some of the alpha particles were deflected slightly. What does it mean? What does he concluded from it? A concentrated positive mass is present in a very small region in an atom, and if the alpha particles is not close to the positive mass, it gets deflected slightly. It means that there is a very small region in an atom, and if the alpha particles is not so close to the positive mass, it gets deflected slightly. It means that this is the positive charge, you can see in the center, and around this is the region from where the alpha particles were deflected with some slight angle or with some less angle. It means that they were deflected just because the experiencing positive charge. Okay, this was the second conclusion. Now the third conclusion, you can see, was third observation. Some alpha particles were deflected by large angles or bounced back with a 360-degree deflection. But some of the alpha particles were deflected back with 360-degree angle. Okay, what was the conclusion that was drawn from here? If the alpha particle passes very close to the concentrated positive mass, and when alpha particles passes from the concentrated mass, what does it mean? It gets deflected through large angles, and if it approaches at right angles, it gets deflected through 360-degree. This is 360-degree, so it gets deflected with 360-degree, because we know that positive charge will deflect positive charge. That's why alpha particle deflects with 360-degree angle from the positive mass or the center of the atom. Okay, now after these all observations, there was a conclusion drawn by the Rutherford, and after these all conclusions, there were some more experiments and models given by Rutherford and Bohr also. Okay, and those experiments and those models we are going to study in the next session of this chapter. Till then, revise the chapter completely and take care of yourself. Bye bye and thank you.